I told my technician, I said, what idiot would ever live out here? Because the water was sheeting across the road.
Okay.
Well, when this idiot
Meet the idiot.
moved out here and has never regretted
Real
it.
estate agent man.
And now your host, Steve Martin Smith.
If you are watching the video version of this podcast on either YouTube or Rumble, then you are viewing photographs of our listing at 37 Riverfront Drive in Venice, Florida. We recently recorded a spur-of-the-moment conversation with the owners, and we have their permission to share it with you today. We discussed the effects of Hurricane Ian, the state forest that is right in their backyard, the flood zone, horses, options for the attached second acre, and the local wildlife. Without further ado, here is that conversation. I am here with Horace and Mary, 37 Riverfront Drive. We are getting ready to list your house. And I just think it's always great when potential buyers can hear directly from the owners. Let's just hit on some highlights. You've been in this house now about like 12 years ago,
That's correct.
right?
And I'm a Michigander, so this was we lived in Tallahassee previous for about 5-6 years. And then moving down here, I was really excited to get where it was warmer. And it's so much country back here. It's very, very rural.
Did you live in that type of area in Michigan as well?
In Michigan, I lived in Dearborn, so it was
Oh, wow. So this was a big switch for you.
Big switch for me, although my family lived in the country, more in a small town. So, but it was just the first morning, the sandhill cranes walking across the front of the yard. It was a big deal for me to be in this house.
Yeah, there's
Very
beautiful nature
open.
here. Beautiful nature around here.
Go ahead.
Horse?
Well, I'm not like my wife. I was born in Savannah, Georgia, and came to Florida at 5 years old. And I was raised in the central part of the state. And I'm a professional surveyor and mapper. This is not a survey or any construed as a survey. Just want to get that out there. But I came here to start working on the I-75 projects from Tampa to the Alley November 11, 1970. And I've worked in this area my whole life, off and on, and I've worked on both coasts of Florida and in South Florida and in Southwest Florida and in North Florida. So for me, I've always lived remotely, always lived close to a river, always lived rural. It was very fulfilling from the standpoint that it had everything that I wanted as far as a place to put a boat, a big garage to run around in, good acreage for my wife to do gardening.
Because you like to do your gardening, don't you?
I love to do my gardening.
We have loved being here. Our life is changing, so we are moving. I got to say, you become very attached to this place. It is very peaceful. When we settle down at night, there is a quiet here that you don't get any place else in this area because we're becoming urbanized. This is a piece of native Florida. This is the wildlife. You have the state forest as your west neighbor.
So that's what you're looking at when you're sitting on your pool deck.
Right.
Yeah, we see the Acre State Forest.
Yeah.
That's it. And you
I
don't...
sit on my front porch in the morning and I can watch the sun rise. And
Yeah.
I can go in the back lanai at night and watch the sun set.
Well, and you also can take long walks down here. Walk for about 5 miles?
I walk about 5 miles. I walk out my driveway and walk all the way down to East River Road, down to South River Road. And it's exactly 5 miles there and back.
Yep, you can ride it. I ride it on a bicycle at 3 in the morning, and I'll never run into anybody other than the occasional animal that might be crossing the road.
And if you had horses, which you can have here.
Yes, you could.
Right.
You could actually, because the state forest is equestrian, you could have horses. Somebody with our extra lot, they could put in a paddock, and they could have horses.
They could ride their horse right down Riverfront Drive to Kimberly Lane,
Yep.
to Myaka Drive, to East River Road,
how
to the
wonderful.
forest, and away you go.
Well, and one of the, that's one of the great unique things about this little area back here is that, to get this type of atmosphere so close to beaches, so close to a new downtown area. I mean, Wellen Park, it's less than 10, when I leave here, it's less than 10 minutes.
It is.
And I'm at the Publix at Wellen Park.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
correct. You can have the absolute peace and quiet of grilling a steak on your back pool deck and laying around in the pool. And if you forgot to get the A1 sauce, it's 10 minutes away.
So it's not
Or
a
you
deal
can
breaker.
pick the ingredients out of your garden and just whip it up.
There you go. You could indeed pick it out of the garden.
Some of the questions I know that are going to come in is people are going to see the AE flood zone. They're going to see the Myaka River. They've seen video footage from Ian last year where the Myaka was flooding. I'll set it up with this and then you can explain in your experiences what you've seen here. But the people across the street, we were selling their house at the time that Ian was happening. They are directly on the Myaka. They have a very long dock going out onto the river, and they rode out the storm in their basement / garage bottom level. It's a stilt house, so I'm trying to explain that.
Right.
And so they were actually in their basement looking out the sliders. They could see the river, they could see the dock, they could see the winds blowing, they could see everything. And you know what they didn't see? They didn't see water come up over their dock.
Right.
So you didn't have that flooding problem here.
We had no flooding for Ian. We had no flooding for Irma. It did not happen.
So as a surveyor, okay, and I know this is not, I'm throwing another
This is not a
disclaimer.
survey.
This is not a survey, but you have experience in
A
this
lot of
area that I don't, right? And so you would be able to explain this better than me to somebody. Why is it, as a surveyor, surveying this entire area for all those years, several decades at least, right, that you were working in Florida, you were able to look at this property and say, I feel safe living here, that I'm not going to have flooding issues.
In 1982, I was doing the maintain, I think it was 82, I was doing the maintain right-of-way survey, and we had a very heavy rain. Point of it is, I told my technician, I said, what idiot would ever live out here? Because the water was sheeting across the road.
Okay?
Well, when in 2011, this idiot
Meet the idiot.
moved out here and has never regretted it because my investigations led me to understand that the Myaka floodplain is so large that when you get to where we're at geographically in the floodplain, that the water simply spreads out. And Ian came through here and we really had no greater water activity than, especially on the immediate roads.
Then the ditches.
The worst flooding there was down at East River and Myaka, and you would expect that immediately after a hurricane. We lost a few cap shingles off the previous roof, which we have since put a new roof on, just so we could sell the house to say we got a new roof on it. And we had some trees knocked down. But did we have flooding?
No.
We had no flooding.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
They
No water in the
can't, it
house.
really can't, it's such a big area that it's not confined, it's free to spread out. We get seasonally wet. The extra lot may bear an inch of water or so, and it will last until it drains off. You may see the roadway ditch get full, but normally it empties out very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and let me throw this out there too, because we moved to Manatee County in '98 from Michigan, also, and then in '05 we moved to Venice, and we've lived in multiple areas throughout the years, all in this general area.
In Orlando as well.
We were in Orlando, but specifically about over here, we get flash flooding, is what they call
Correct.
it. And, you know, I've seen 41, half of 41 be like 6 inches, 8 inches underwater on one side. And so everybody's kind of avoiding that and going around. But it happens for an hour, a couple hours, 4 hours maybe, right?
Right.
Because the drainage systems are good from what I can tell. But still, we get so much water in a short period of time. And so that can happen anywhere.
I think 2
period.
times we've had water where we've actually had water in the street.
Every 3 or 4 years,
And then-
we will get an afternoon rain, usually towards the end of September, and we will get water that actually
Well,
fills the ditches and goes across the road, and then within a couple of hours,
It's
it's
gone.
gone.
Yeah.
If you want to
And you
take,
know, they get that in Sarasota National.
I know.
Okay, that, you know, Grand Palm. I mean, none of these neighborhoods are exempt from that when the rain comes down that hard, that fast.
there is the park, the subdivision has a park that is accessible from Riverfront Drive, and the creek, the naturally occurring creek, does run next to that park. And if you really wanted to, you probably could put your kayak in right there,
and go out.
and you could kayak on out to the river.
If you're into nature at all, I mean, it's a perfect place to live. I have an owl that comes down my driveway every once in a while and comes through, and he'll land in the tree in the back. We often have the sandhill cranes that come through. We've had deer that have come. Very few, but I have pictures of deer in the backyard.
We're sitting here on 2 acres of land, and the house is actually, I think, perfectly situated just on like the left side of that. So you have an entire other place to do something, whether it's tennis courts, right? I mean, if you like to play tennis, you could have your own tennis courts there.
Right.
I know you were talking to me about somebody you're aware of that has actually kind of mentioned they'd like to have that other lot. What was that about?
Well, we have several people that have over the years in the neighborhood been contractors and talked about building something, saying that, well, I'd love to have Horse's place because you could build a huge workshop
And garage.
on the extra lot. And if you were to split it out, you definitely could.
Yeah.
Okay, because you know when the lots are combined, the rules that regarding how much square footage you got is different than if they were separated. But you could easily separate the lots into 2 parcels, and then you would have a parcel that you could build a 30,000 or better square foot garage on,
Or a
Or you
brand
can
new
build
house.
a house.
yeah, definitely you could build a new house. There's no, as far as I know, there are no zoning restrictions. There are definitely no subdivision restrictions
Okay.
You could
that
build a,
that would keep you from doing that. The pool room we explored early on with the county about doing a mother-in-law suite out of the pool room, and they said, you know, that was all possible.
Somebody might buy this and then eventually build a house there and sell this one off or rent it or keep it for family or whatever.
Right.
You mentioned the possibility of like
Because-
having that for your horses.
the state forest is equestrian. So
Yeah,
you
you
could
could-
put a horse paddock there.
You could do a paddock, and it would just be a short walk to the entrance up on East River Road into the forest. As
Or-
far as I know, that.
You know, I mentioned tennis courts, but I say pickleball courts, and then you charge all your neighbors to use it.
No, it's there's a lot of possibilities because it's such a large area. It is. It's a very large property.
Yeah. You've been here for 12 years.
That's correct.
Loved it.
You loved it, and now you're moving on to your next adventure.
That's
And
right.
that's the way in real estate that I have grown to look at it with everybody. I mean, I've moved multiple times. Well, Katrina and I have moved multiple times throughout the years, and it's just always life changes, what you want changes. Sometimes people do things because they have to, sometimes they do it because they want to. It's irrelevant, or should be irrelevant, to the buyer because the buyer is looking at the house, not your life.
That's right.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Right?
And they're
Well-
looking at their life and what they could do with this property.
Exactly.
And that was kind of how it was when we bought.
We feel like we put a lot of love into this house.
We did.
Yeah, we
Oh, it
feel
shows.
we
It shows.
Thank you.
there's a piece of me that will regret not having this because I know how hard in Southwest Florida it is to find this. And I think that one of the biggest selling points on this place, to me, is the fact that state forest is going nowhere.
No, it isn't. No.
But you are choosing to live the life less lived when you choose this place. Life less lived.
I like that.
And I don't think you're giving up any.
No, you're
No.
close enough to.
They once-
You're not giving up anything here.
Yeah.
You've got a beautiful fireplace, it's gorgeous high ceilings, a beautiful large kitchen with all kinds of storage and space.
You know,
and-
you're in the country, but you're close enough to any kind of shopping. We're close enough to airports. We're close enough to medical. I mean, it's ideal.
So you're going to be listening to this podcast or video after I get it done, and you're going to talk yourself out of selling.
This has
Trust me.
happened. This has happened.
So we are going to wrap it up at this point. Thank you both. I really appreciate it. And
Well,
I'm sure
Steve,
that-
we greatly appreciate both your and Katrina, and especially Katrina's efforts.
I didn't do anything except come over here and tell you, stop doing that, stop doing that, put it down, walk away. And do this over here, and don't forget that. I can help.
Well, that wraps up that conversation. Hopefully you found this to be very helpful. If you have a brokerage agreement signed with a local realtor, go ahead and give them a call so they can set up a showing for you. Otherwise, you may call or text my cell directly at 941-894-9800, and I'll be happy to give you a personal or video tour of this wonderful property. That number again is 941-894-9800, and you can always find us at stevemartinhomes.com.
There's a man who leads a life of danger, showing houses day and night to strangers. With every call he takes, a chance that they are fakes, hoping they will buy a house tomorrow. Real estate agent man, real estate agent man. Write down his cell phone number. Do not forget his name. Where the pretty pictures that you find, deceitful sellers make you lose your mind. Then be careful what you say, or you may have to pay, unless your agent saves your cash tomorrow. Real estate agent man, real estate agent man. Write down his cell phone number. Do not forget his name. Hoping for the Riviera one day. First he must sell Sarasota today. And that Nissan that he drives, it don't make him feel alive. That Lamborghini dream lives on tomorrow. Real estate agent man, real estate agent man. Write down his cell phone number. Do not forget his name. Real estate agent man, real estate agent man. Write down his cell phone number. estate